All right, Formula One Philosophy is back for the Qatar Grand Prix recap. I've discovered a new way of doing this podcast yet again, and this time I'm going to do it like we did last week in the Vegas Grand Prix recap. Sean will be joining us in a bit, but I'm going to give just a 10-minute lowdown of what actually happened. Remember to look us up at Formula One Philosophy at Gmail, F1philosophypod at gmail.com. to ask any questions to us directly, F1 Philosophy at YouTube and F1_Philosophy at Instagram for the dank memes that we put up. So yeah, the Qatar Grand Prix sprint weekend has come and gone, and we are going to Abu Dhabi, ladies and gentlemen, with I don't want to say a dominant Max Verstappen win, but still a masterclass in his part. He had to be perfect and have some astute strategy from his team, something we will talk about, I'm sure, when Sean joins us. But to win the race again, that's 2 in a row, one before the disqualification in Vegas, but they're clearly on form and now are, in a lot of ways, the favorite to win Abu Dhabi. Norris is going to have to finish at least third, I think, because I have a feeling Max is going to come alive again. But we'll see. Like we saw in the Qatar sprint, the Red Bull has the propensity to, out of nowhere, just do things that even Max can't control or explain, like we saw bouncing on the curbs that he couldn't control, porpoising out of nowhere. So the Red Bull is still very erratic, and they're still learning a lot from it, and it's just the type of season they're having. Max probably would have wrapped this up a long time ago if they were just at the level they were last year, and I've been saying that all year. If they just go back to 2024 levels, not even 2023 levels, they would be a shoo-in to win. That's what I said preseason. But they got even worse. The talking point, though, I think, after Oscar Piastri dominated spring qualifying, the sprint and qualifying, both poles dominated the race in what is, quite frankly, a boring type of race. The Qatar Grand Prix, it's never going away. We're going to lose Imola. We're going to lose probably Suzuka, Canada. We've already lost Belgium on rotation. We're going to lose all the great tracks for crap like this. So just get used to it, everybody. But at least they threw a wrench in the system a little bit, and we saw the 25-lap mandatory stints that created a 2-stop race, and only because there's a title fight, it made it interesting, right? And McLaren made a mistake, so it still relied on a mistake, but because of that, we had Max start on third and win the race from a McLaren pit stop error, and everybody's talking about that. How could they fumble it so bad? When did they become Ferrari? How are they throwing away this championship? How are they not figuring out how to dominate with the best car? Well, talk about that more with Sean. In my opinion, it speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to the fact that they're coddling Norris, because Stella did say in the post-race interview, double stacking Lando and bringing in Piastri would have ruined Norris's race. And it's like, well, I thought you don't favor your drivers. I thought you just go by who's racing the best this week, and whoever's racing the best gets the favorable strategy. They knew to pit Oscar right away, but it would have compromised Lando in the double stack. Well, that's not Oscar's problem, especially when Lando has a bad start yet again. He went first to third in Vegas and then second to third in Qatar. That's not Oscar's problem. So to sacrifice Piastri for Lando means you've picked your driver. We know this. I've been talking about this for 2 years. So well before the season, well before the team orders in Australia race 1, when 2 minutes beforehand or even seconds, Zach Brown had said, we'll let them race if they come up to each other. And, well, Oscar was behind Lando right away, and they said, don't pass him. Lying to our face. Sean and I will talk about that more. I'll bring it up more. I'll bring up more with Sean, yeah. And, but anyways, Max first, Oscar second, Carlos Sainz with the wonderful podium, his third of the season if you include sprints. Just really turning it on when it matters. Alex Albon has completely disappeared. Completely disappeared at Williams, to the point where Carlos is only 11 points behind Alex right now, and I think at one point it was almost 60. It was like 58 points or 56 points, and he's really cut that gap, and I think it speaks to the type of driver he is. He builds and grows into cars. You don't bait, and he was very unlucky, getting a lot of bad luck in the first part of the season. I think he had to, like I said before, had to go through that to get to this point. But now he's here. Now he's consistently getting points, consistently the points grabber, and he got Williams 5th place by doing that. And Sean and I, I'm sure, will talk about it more. but it just shows the type of driver he is. Look out for Carlos Sainz next year, especially if Williams gets it right. From my understanding, Alex, I don't think he scored a point in 8 or 9 races. I'll look that up. But yeah, we'll talk about that more. Yuki Tsunoda had a really good sprint qualifying, finally out qualifying Max in 5th. Max came 6th. Like I said, the erraticness of the Red Bull. Max was able to figure it out for qualifying a couple hours later, but Yuki clearly wasn't out in Q1. But for a brief period, for a brief moment, we saw Yuki Tsunoda really become the driver he could have been at Red Bull for a brief second. And it got past Alonso with Max on the first corner and then let Max through and did exactly what he needed to get Max back in the championship, because it seemed kind of hopeless after the Qatar sprint for the Red Bull. But here we are, where Max is only 12 points behind. He only needs a win and a Lando 4th to win the championship. And Yuki is a big help of that, remember. Because if Max didn't have the 2 points, it's 14 points. Right? He got 2 more points because of Yuki. And every point matters right now. So that could have been Yuki, but I think it's probably too little too late, if you ask me. And well, as it was confirmed today, the Red Bull 2026 lineup, where Yuki's not there. Yuki's going to be a reserve driver, I think, for the Racing Bulls. I don't even think he's a Red Bull reserve. Or he might be the reserve for both teams. Arvid Lindblad being promoted to the Racing Bulls for next year with Liam Lawson as the team leader. That's going to be a wonderful combination. Anyways, we'll talk about more about that later. Yeah, Alex Albon hasn't scored a point in 7 races. He did get some points in the sprint in the USA. But then the Red Bull gets Isaac Hadjar and Max Verstappen for next year, which will be very interesting. I'll talk about that with Sean as to, is that a good thing? We don't know. We really don't know. It seems to be a curse, but I guess we'll find out next year. Ferrari is now 44 points behind Red Bull. That's another talking point of this weekend with another classless display. Charles Leclerc came 8th in the Grand Prix, and both of them out of the points in the sprint, which is just unbelievable to think. But yeah, that's what it is. And without further ado, we'll talk more about this. I'll get more into detail with Sean. I don't want to talk about all these talking points on my own. But Abu Dhabi is certainly going to be an amazing thing. My personal opinion is I would like to see Max win no matter what, even if Lando wins the title. Max winning the most races this season in a season where he had the worst car will be the ultimate sign that he's one of the best. And really shove it in Lando's face that Lando needed the best car to win. No, you needed the team to help you. You needed them to pull down Oscar. We'll talk about that more with Sean. And without further ado, Sean Medeiros is now joining us. All right, and Sean is joining us from home. This time you're no longer in the BMW Porsche Museum, also known as Germany. How are you today, Sean?
I'm okay. Trying to figure out what the fuck that means, but okay, sure.
It's because it's very pristine. It's very regimented. You have to be quiet in Germany. They treat it as a museum, the entire nation.
Have you ever been there?
Many times, actually. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. No.
Anyway. I'm doing all right.
Good.
A little under the weather, but I'll be fine.
All right, well, try and not let what happened this weekend make you too sick. Because, jeez, there was some bullshit this week.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, from a fan perspective, like I was saying, Solo, I was saying, like, it made for a very exciting race that probably shouldn't have been a very exciting race.
Mm-hmm.
But it also required a fuck-up from a team that really wishes it was Ferrari.
Yeah, they're certainly trying, aren't they?
The hardest they can. All right, so I listed the all the things that happened this weekend. I talked about the most, like, a boring sprint that turned into a great race. Max winning again, McLaren with the strategy fuck up, Yuki Tsunoda deciding I can be a number 2 driver in the sprint only to disappear again. Carlos Sainz, where do you want to start? What would you like to get into? What was your thoughts on the entire race? And then what would you like to get into first?
I thought the race was good. It was definitely better than the sprint was, that's for sure. Can we start with Pirelli?
Oh, so getting into why we had a 25 lap stint, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Because this is not the first time they've done that at this race. So basically they saw data that suggested there was some structural concerns with the tire at that track. Being a fast track, a lot of high load corners, they were worried that the tires simply were not going to hold up. So they imposed the 25 lap maximum stint length, which they did last year. And it's kind of similar to what happened at Monaco, right? The mandatory 2-stop, effectively. And then after practice, that data that they saw that suggested the tires weren't going to hold up was actually before the race. Basically, the data that they've collected over the season suggests that there was going to be a problem. After practice, they raised the minimum tire pressures as well. And that's because they were seeing a lot of cuts in some of the tires from cars running through the gravel, putting gravel onto the track, and then the following cars running over the gravel that was cutting the tire. What we ended up seeing, though, was the potential for a soft, medium, soft race, or a medium, medium, soft, or a soft, medium, medium. But that's not what we saw.
No.
And I can understand Pirelli wanting to be cautious because they don't want people to be out there and puncture tires, have blowouts, have delaminations, potentially cause unsafe conditions. So I'm all for Pirelli doing what they have to do. I think that was a little cautious for the medium and the hard, at least. But I'm a little annoyed that the teams didn't have more balls. Right? The only team to really try something was Aston Martin, but they tried it with Stroll, who was never going to be anywhere but the back. So why bother? But we saw everybody go really conservative. And I think most of the teams ended up using the hard tire, which at the beginning of the weekend, nobody thought was even going to... They thought they were burning through them in free practice because they weren't going to use them for the race at all. So I'm confused why that was the strategy, especially when we've seen soft tires go for 25 laps previously. And you can say, okay, the soft tire, when we saw it go for those longer stint lengths, was at tracks that may not have been as high energy as Qatar is. But ultimately, it's not the same soft tire either. It's actually the third hardest tire in the range.
Yeah, sorry. Can I just interject? Wasn't the soft tire at Qatar the hard tire at Vegas?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's 6 tire compounds that they have. And they usually use 3 in a row. And they change where in the range it is based on how much energy there is in the track. How hard the track is on these tires. So that soft tire wasn't actually a soft tire. Like you said, it's been a hard tire at other tracks. For this particular weekend, it was the softest in the range. So I'm a little annoyed we didn't see more people try to make a strategy work with the soft. That being said, we saw Isaac Hadjar have a puncture at the end of the race and basically drop him out of a really good spot to 0 points.
P6.
I forget we use. Yeah, exactly. P6. P6 to last, basically. I think they ended up DNFing him instead of putting him back out on a.
Another tire, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. My brain is shot.
It's okay.
So that's my take on Pirelli. You know, if they're going to do this type of thing where they're implementing minimum stint lengths, I think they have to be a little bit more selective in how they do it. Maybe a minimum stint length of 25 laps for the soft and increase it as you go. Because I would highly doubt that all three tires are as sensitive to that track as the other. I think I've said that right. You know what I mean, though, right?
As sensitive, that range is as sensitive as it would be at another track, is what you're saying?
No. So the maximum stint length was applied to all three tires equally.
Oh, I see.
When realistically, the soft is going to be the one that's most at risk. So if you think it's 25 laps for the soft, it's 30 laps for the medium and 35 or 40 for the hard. Right?
Yeah.
Having a maximum stint length, one of these days look at that, right? is not a bad idea. But pigeonholing everybody into a two-stop race and basically a two-stop race where everybody's stopping at the same time, it's kind of irrelevant, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on, McLaren made it not so irrelevant.
Yes. I was just going to add to that point, like it basically made the situation, because I like your idea, like make it a 25 to 35 depending on the tire, or go a range down and say 25 lap stint. But what that made for was he who fucks up first loses the race, or he who pits first wins the race, essentially. Or he who pits with everybody else wins is what we end up seeing. What was your thoughts on what McLaren did? Because there was a lot of comments being made after the fact. Like we saw Andrea Stella come on the Formula1.com interview afterwards, and he essentially alluded to the fact that they didn't pit Piastri right away because they would have had to pit Norris, they would have had to double stack, and that would have ruined Lando's race. Although they tried telling Oscar and Lando that it was all about flexibility and all that bullshit. Do you think that they did that to sacrifice Piastri? Do you think it was just a straight up bout of incompetence? What the hell was McLaren thinking?
It was incompetence. There was absolutely no reason to favor one driver over the other. They made a decision, and it was the wrong decision. I can't think of a reason that would justify the decision that they made. You know, if they had expected maybe another safety car or some other sort of flexibility somehow, okay, but you can't rely on that, especially when they put so much effort into making sure that the tires are going to be okay. Right? The track is wider than it used to be, so that they're not running over the curbs and the gravel as much as they used to. The maximum tire stint length has been set pretty conservatively, so you know that everybody's going to have to pit. That to me was a case of, let's call it, strategy paralysis. The safety car came out, everybody jumped on it, but McLaren could not make the decision. And by the time they made the decision, it was too late for them to do anything. And I think that's all it was. It was just straight incompetence.
Do you think maybe, like, just to add to your point with incompetence, do you think maybe they didn't think everybody was going to pit? They thought it was going to be a mixed bag. They didn't, like, it was almost the heavy weighs the crown analogy that they, because they're leading, they didn't think everybody else would dive into the pits. They thought, we're not going to dive into the pits, maybe nobody else will. Do you think they just underestimated everybody's ability in that moment?
I mean, it's possible, but in those cases, you can't be playing those types of games. You got to be focused on your end of it. And we see that. Sorry, I'm trying to piece together my words carefully here. We see that with everybody else, they pitted and that locked them into basically a predefined stop strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, McLaren had some flexibility because they could have pitted 5 laps later. They could have pitted 10 laps later. And that was their flexibility. They could have planned their stops with a little bit more margin than the guys that had stopped in the safety car. Right, the guys that stopped at the safety car stopped very early, which then put them on lap 32, I think it was,
yes,
for their next stop. And sure enough, everybody pitted lap 32 with the exception of 1 or 2 people who pitted early. And then that took them basically to the end. McLaren had the chance to try and find a way to pit potentially before lap 32 or just after, whatever it was, within that 25. I guess it would have been before, but anyway, you get my point.
Yeah.
They could have found a place to pit other than lap 25.
Yes.
To give them the best option for the next pit stop. But they didn't do that. And I have a feeling they didn't do it because they were trying to build a gap that never came.
Mm.
And that was a stupid decision. And I don't think there's any malice in that. I think it's all just incompetence.
It just seemed like such a no-brainer that when Hülkenberg crashed on lap 7, I'm like, I instantly thought, oh, that's perfect. So now you can do a 2-stop and finish the race after lap 32. 7 minus 57 divided by 2 is 50. So it's like that would be the perfect time exactly to have your strategy. And just to your point, I'm glad you brought up Pirelli first. The flexibility could have been in the compounds for McLaren, which once again they played conservative. If you have flexibility, you have to pit again at lap 50 per se. Say you go both max 25, medium, then you go soft for the last stint if you want to make up the gap. But like there's just none of that thinking ever came.
Right.
And it seemed like such a no-brainer. I don't know what happened in that moment. It almost seems like they want to go to Abu Dhabi with the championship in place. It almost seems like they want to give us this spectacle. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying it's like it's so silly. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? Sorry, I had another point, but I lost it.
No, I mean, I don't really have any more to say on that other than McLaren once again screws Piastri, and intentional or not, that's what it was. So can't fault Max Verstappen for taking the win because it was handed to him and he drove perfectly. He did everything that he needed to do. I would argue that McLaren had the opportunity to double stack their drivers and were too chicken shit to take it.
Well, that's what Stella was alluding to, that the most benefit, like the one who would benefit the least would be Lando in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Did they want to preserve his title lead? They're not playing favorites, wink. They're just trying to do what's best to win the drivers, which I don't fault them for that. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Sure. No, and I forget exactly which lap it was, but I remember looking at the gap between Piastri and Norris, and it was like 3.9, and it was coming up to pit stop time, and they didn't have a gap to Verstappen. So that was never a question of, Piastri could pit with a gap to Verstappen and be comfortable. That was not the case. It was like a 7 or 8 second gap to Verstappen, but it was 3.9 to Norris. That is a reasonable gap for a double stack because they're going to come into the pits with that gap, and they're both going to have to be doing the pit lane speed. So if you maintain that 3.9 gap, by the time Oscar is in and serviced, Lando's there. So it's a quick double stack, but we've seen quicker before.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely had the opportunity to do it. And I think that was their first pit stop, which was when Lando came out behind, who was it?
Sainz and Russell, I think. Or Sainz and Antonelli.
Sainz and Antonelli, and just managed to stay ahead of Alonso, I believe it was. Because Alonso was doing what he did best and created a cork for the rest of the field again. The guy drives me nuts. Anyway, but that's the where I think they really screwed it up. They could have double stacked. They've had some pit stop blunders this year, but they've been on it the last few races. So why not take the chance? Frankly, even if it was a botched double stack, I don't think it would have cost Lando as much time as pitting him a lap later did.
Yeah, especially with Max gaining on him like he was.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a good point. It does seem like incompetence. It's just, I think if the calculus is Lando's going to get screwed a little bit more, like at lap 7, I think they made the right call, unfortunately. From a we need to preserve the driver's standpoint, it always seems to screw Oscar. And when Oscar had the opportunity to preserve the driver's title, they never made that call, did they? They never made a call in against Lando. And you saw Oscar I don't know if you caught it in the podium celebration, the look he gave after he got the trophy. He was hurt. Like he was like looking up to the sky being like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
I think he's starting to realize he's not going to win with this team unless there's a complete 180 next year. Just before we get to Antonelli, I want to just bring up some things I didn't bring up with you last week. Well, actually, yeah, sorry. There was a comment made before Qatar. I want to get your take on this, where they had a meeting. McLaren had a meeting with Oscar saying, would you be willing to help Lando preserve the title? And Oscar said no, obviously. He's like, I'm still in the hunt. That's the right thing to say, yada, yada, yada. I want to get your take. Mm-hmm. What fucking gall McLaren has asking him that after the season? What are your thoughts? Like, do you have just simple thoughts, or do you have a whole rant in mind? Like, what the hell was that, McLaren? And then to broadcast it that you asked Oscar, you got balls.
Again, I don't know that balls is the right term. I think it's general stupidity.
Yeah, maybe.
Because we've said it many times. Piastri was leading the championship for most of the year. And it's only after Lando was given every chance to fuck it up that he managed to get enough points out of it. Maybe I've said that wrong, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised Piastri said no. And I did hear some commentary about this throughout the weekend, and I generally agree with it. You've got a legitimate three-way fight for the title between two teammates and the current champion. Why the fuck would he help him?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have nothing to say to that other than I think it's just pure stupidity on the McLaren side.
I just think it shows their arrogance. Right, I'm going to talk about this when we do our season recap. Just the arrogance of all the teams, like McLaren arrogantly, like the top four, McLaren arrogantly thinking that they could navigate this by being quote unquote fair while they're clearly not being fair and trying to convince us and gaslight us otherwise. The arrogance that we wouldn't react this way. Like the majority of the comments to that were like, what the hell is wrong with you, McLaren? They're trying so hard to be positive PR for themselves that they're ruining their reputation by the day. I don't see how you can be a McLaren fan without being embarrassed at this point. This is awful. This season has been horribly navigated by them. I understand you want to be fair to your drivers, but be fair. You haven't been fair. You've been the exact opposite of that. Like, ugh. And like the arrogance and the arrogance of Mercedes thinking they can just offload a 7-time champion with a rookie and we'll just jump up the constructors. And that worked because of the only bigger arrogance of Red Bull and Ferrari. Right? And like we'll talk about this more at the end of the season, but like just that is such arrogance to think that they could say that in public and we wouldn't be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Keep that to yourself. Keep that as a conversation that we don't hear. Jos Verstappen, I know we don't really value his opinion that much, but he is a former Formula One driver, made a comment this week that he's noticed that Oscar's car is sliding more than Lando's car. Do you think there is favoritism in development there, or do you think Jos is trying to get in their head?
Jos is just playing the douchebag. Oscar's car is sliding more because Oscar is pushing it.
Mm.
If you look at the beginning of the season and into last year, Lando was sliding around like a motherfucker. When he was under pressure, he was doing the same thing. He's trying to overdrive the car. That's not what we saw this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And we've said it before. Piastri got on well with Qatar last year. It is a circuit that fits more of what we've seen from him. So I really do think it's just Jos being a shit disturber.
It's working. It's working.
Sorry?
It's working.
It's working because people are fucking... oh, God. The attention span and the ability of people to do any sort of critical thinking these days is completely gone.
Mm.
That's why it works.
I'm not going to comment because I'm one of those people.
Yeah, exactly.
Lando with another bad start. That's what I mean. Like another bad start off the get-go, falls behind Max Verstappen. That's what I mean. It's working. It seems to be getting in McLaren's head. Whatever he's doing. This is the mind games that the Verstappens have gotten really good at. I forgot to ask you this last week. Speaking of Lando, I said this solo. He's not reading data anymore. I don't know if you heard that, or he's not reading the delta on his screen anymore. Do you think that's going to screw McLaren in the future? Right? Because like, could there be a problem with the car and Lando's not going to be able to tell them what's wrong? They're not going to be able to deduce anything? Or you think it's just really just shows how mentally weak he is and it's not going to affect development at all?
I mean, it depends on which delta he's referring to. There are certain delta times that he has to have available to him because the FIA say that he has to. Right? So the mini sector deltas that they use for virtual safety car and things like that need to be there. So it needs to be on the dash. Whether he looks at it or not is his own prerogative. I would hope that he looks at it during a virtual safety car. But if they're talking about the delta between him and Piastri, that is something they have the ability to program into that system. I wouldn't blame him for not looking at it, because frankly, it's irrelevant without more data. So I don't really understand what that is.
Well,
If he's... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm thinking Max Verstappen Monza 2024. He says, watch these lap times. These lap times are important. He's looking at every data available to him because he knows for the future upgrades on the car in the last part of the season, they're going to need all the information they can get. Lando's not that type of person. He's just at the mercy of development. Is that somebody that McLaren wants to be their main driver?
I think you're connecting dots that aren't necessarily there. Max is saying that because he wants to point out, hey, I'm doing something here, make note of it. And on the Lando side, I'm making some assumptions here, but if you're saying his comment is that he's no longer looking at the delta times, to me that sounds like he wants to be less rigid and more fluid, let's say. Doesn't want to drive to a delta. He wants to push the car to his comfort level and see if the time comes, which is definitely a way to do it. To your point about development, the engineers are looking at the times and seeing what worked and didn't work. They're not going to get the detailed data back from him to say, I gained 0.2 here when we made this change. But I don't know that they necessarily need that. If they know what they did and they saw an improvement in the time because Lando was more comfortable, I think that's just as valuable as a driver like Max saying, hey, look at this, look at what I can do. So, I don't know. I'm on the fence.
I'm just thinking, like, if you're Oscar, and since I've got here, development's been nothing but positive. And with Lando, it's been up and down. Right? Do you not look at that and go, why are you rallying around this guy? And he can't even look at sector times without getting overwhelmed. He can't look at his comparison to me without getting overwhelmed. He has to be completely in a bubble. Is that your champion? That's kind of what I'm alluding to. But yeah. You make a good point. Like, maybe it's just not, maybe I'm just seeing things or making connections that aren't there.
Yeah, but at the same time, this could be that he's been trying to get on top of the data. He's been trying to see, okay, I did this here and I gained X amount. So if I do this, maybe I'll gain a little more. I can understand how trying to do that and being so caught up in sector times could actually slow you down. So him saying, I'm not looking at it anymore, I'm going to drive the car the way I feel it should be driven, and then basing his opinion on a lap time from that to be just as valuable as the other option. How the drivers come to the decision that something is faster is really the final lap time, right? Because there's 3 sectors in the track, and I think there's something like 12 mini sectors. So if you're constantly monitoring all these mini sectors to say, oh, I'm up by 0.05, it's not necessarily a benefit if you're down 0.1 in the next mini sector, right? You can be all over the map in your sector times, especially the mini sector times, and still come out with a faster lap. Right, and they try and show this in the commentary by showing track dominance, usually against teammates. So-and-so is faster in the corners than in the straights. But because of the nature of the track, the other teammate is faster because it's a more straight dominant track, right? Hmm. And we see this, we did see this comparison early on in the season with Max and Yuki, where Yuki was good in the corners usually, faster out of the corners. Sorry, that's wrong.
Faster into the corners?
No, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to get it wrong anyway. But we would see a comparison of Yuki and Max, where Yuki was better, let's say, in FP1 in the majority of the track than Max was. But what Max was doing was still faster than Yuki. And as you go into the weekend further, that feedback that Yuki was giving from the car then added to what Max could do. Hmm. So it's not always just about what the driver himself is doing. It's the team is taking all the data and kind of rolling it into one. And if you've got a team that actually works coherently with each other, they know what they can pick and choose from each other to make it better. So what we would end up seeing is Yuki would test a concept, whether it was less downforce, more downforce, a new type of wing, a new whatever. And if he showed that there was the potential for performance gain in it, then Max would adopt it. Because, like I've said before, the team agrees that Yuki has really good technical feedback, right? So tying it back to what we were talking about, Max being able to look at sector times and see, I changed this and I gained that is a great thing to have. But you also do need a little bit of help from the people around you. So I wouldn't put all that on Lando to say, I'm not looking at sector times anymore, leave me alone, as him being the problem. If that makes him comfortable to not look at the sector times and he thinks he can go faster that way, the engineers are there to do that for him. So I'm not seeing that as a con necessarily.
All right. I guess we'll see next year.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to Antonelli. Was his father Timo Glock? What do you think of that? Yeah, I'm kidding.
You're going to have to elaborate on that one.
So Antonelli is getting death threats online for allegedly pulling over at the end of the race to let Norris through. That was brought upon by Red Bull. Making the comment, or GP saying, not sure what happened to Antonelli there, but Norris is fourth because it looks like Antonelli pulled over for him. I'm paraphrasing. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It did look like Antonelli made a mistake, but he did pull over pretty conspicuously.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a weird move. I don't see any incentive for Kimi to do that for Lando. Yeah. It's you can have whatever opinion of it you want, but who benefits from that?
It's a good question. Does Mercedes want to be the winning engine, the driver's title winning engine? So do they sort of hint?
That's a stupid thing to say because what the fuck does it matter?
I know.
They've already got the constructors.
I understand. I'm not saying, wouldn't both be better? I'm not saying I agree with this. Actually, it looks to me like a mistake was made.
You know how much Mercedes gets from McLaren winning the constructors?
I imagine zero.
Zero, yes. You know how much they get from a driver that has a Mercedes engine behind them winning constructors?
Zero.
Do you know how much McLaren pays Mercedes for those engines?
It's got to be more than zero.
It's about $4.5 million an engine. I think they have 3 of them.
Times 2. So 12 million times 24 million a year.
Right.
Advertising.
They owe McLaren nothing.
I know. I'm just saying that could be a way to look at it. I don't agree with the hate. I don't agree with the idea that he needs death threats when there's still one race to go and Lando Norris is the leader. So everybody can chill the fuck out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a second. That is absolutely uncalled for. The kid is 18 years old and you're threatening to kill him over a fucking sport because he did something that you think is unseemly.
Yeah. It's really
These
dumb.
people need to get out and touch grass. Like, it's not that serious, people. You're not the one with tens or hundreds of millions of dollars on the line here. Go talk to somebody. I don't care who it is. Just get outside. Have some fresh air. If you're sending death threats to an 18-year-old kid because you think he did something, you got a fucking problem.
Yeah, and even if you're gambling and that ruins your card or whatever, like, what is sending death threats to him going to fix?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. It's just wild. It's just wild. What is it now? Almost 20 years on from Glock is slow. I guess 17 years on from that. Like, back then it was ridiculous to make that assumption. Now it's kind of just like, oh, okay, it's a conspiracy now, like that we're all gonna, like some of us at least are gonna agree with.
Yeah.
I don't know what changed there. Glocks look more conspicuous to me, but whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
But maybe to go back to that, because maybe our listeners don't know what you're talking about. I'm assuming you mean Glock in Brazil with Massa and Hamilton?
Yes, he pulls to the side. He was on dry tires in the wet. Seemed to have no problem the lap before, but suddenly when Hamilton's behind him, he's pulled over. That was an
Yeah.
interesting one.
And Glock was on F1 Nation talking to what's his name, Tom Holland, about that, right? And I believe him. Why does he? This 17 years later, what does he have to lose from lying about it? It really was that they thought they could make it and they couldn't, and it just got too bad. And even after all that, Massa came out and, he thought Massa hated him for years. And it was like 10 years after the fact that he was in the same room with Massa and talked about it. And Massa didn't even know what the fuck had happened. So, I mean, people who make up these theories just need to go get a life. Shit happens. People make bad decisions. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I think that's all it was with Antonelli. He was under pressure from behind. He's still a rookie. He fucked up a corner. And he fucked it up to the point where he knew it wasn't worth defending. I think that's all it was.
Yeah. From the broadcast, it looks sus, but if you just look at his onboards and from his rear wing camera, it's clear. It's clear it was not intentional. So let's give the kid a break. What do you want to talk about next? We're running out a little bit of time, so we're going to have to plow through these. What do you want to talk about next? Yuki in the sprint deciding he's a number 2 driver and deserves a future, only to fuck it all up, or Carlos Sainz with his 3rd podium of the season?
Well, we can talk about Yuki quickly. I think this is going to be pretty short. I was excited in the sprint. Finally, Yuki came to play. But then it went back to status quo.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you saw the news today.
Yes, I did.
I think that sums it up. So, he got 5 points last weekend. And his reward for that is a reserve driver role, which frankly makes a whole lot of sense to me because the team has been really clear that his technical feedback is phenomenal. So they're going to put him in that car every chance they get, prior car testing, simulator, whatever, because he's proven that he can give good feedback that will improve Max's ability.
That's a good point.
So I think it's the best option there. It's unfortunate that he doesn't have a permanent seat, but I'm glad they didn't just kick him to the wind. And, this weekend and even in Brazil, yeah, he scored points in Brazil. He's been able to score points here and there, right? He's not completely useless, but he's just too inconsistent.
Yeah.
It's the same argument we had with Checo. Although I think he did better than Checo this year.
In points?
Question mark. Yeah.
Checo got 151 points last year.
All early, though.
Yeah. Second half, Checo was, I think his delta, like his finishing positions was like 8th to 12th. Yuki was like sometimes like 16th.
Okay. Yeah. So then I'm wrong. That's fine. I'm going to play that up to Checo having more than 1 year in the car.
Yeah.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
No, that's fair. That's fair to say.
So I think, we've got one more race for Yuki to try and go out on top, but I think realistically he's going to be 12th.
Yeah.
There's nothing particularly great about Abu Dhabi, so it's unfortunate, but that's where we are.
I think he did lead some laps here 2 years ago at Abu Dhabi. So let's take that as you may.
Sure, but on a pit stop delta, right?
That's not important, Sean.
I'm pretty sure. Who's a good example for this? I'm pretty sure we've seen Esteban Ocon lead his share of laps on a pit lane or pit stop delta as well.
Oh yeah, this season, correct. Yeah.
So.
Antonio Giovinazzi has more laps led at Singapore than Max Verstappen. Yeah, means nothing.
Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. Look that up. He's led 4 laps before pit stop delta. Max has never led a lap, even pit stop delta.
Holy shit.
That's wild, eh?
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, just before we get into science, what do you think of the new RB lineup? Let's just comment on that quickly. RB and Red Bull lineup.
With that lineup, I think Sauber and Alpine have a chance next year.
With RB, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lawson's the leader.
So the lineup is Lawson and Lindblad.
Good luck.
I mean, I'll try to be optimistic. It's a brand new rule set. RB has a new team principal at the head. Maybe they get lucky.
Just so everybody knows, Bruno Fornaroli, who just went back-to-back F3, F2, is not getting a seat. And he had 5 feature race wins plus a sprint win, I think, or 2 sprint wins this season.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Arvid Lindblad won 1 sprint race, 1 feature race.
And he's in like 4th or 5th place.
He's in
isn't
6th.
he? 6th.
He was in 7th in this. So this weekend, he qualified on the same day that Yuki qualified ahead of Max Verstappen. He qualified 17th. He ended up finishing 4th in the sprint race because of a pit stop, like a safety car pit stop. Put him ahead of a bunch of his rivals. He might be, like, I'm serious when I say this, he might be worse than Behrman, because Behrman in his first season of F2 finished 3rd.
Yeah.
This is awful. Like, that's a horrible promotion. Why wouldn't you keep Yuki on a leash next year at Racing Bulls if you value his feedback? And you could see if Lindblad improved. Yeah, sorry.
No, maybe it's because they wanted Yuki to get the feedback in the Red Bull car. It serves Red Bull no. Red Bull doesn't benefit if Yuki's in the Racing Bulls. Red Bull benefits if Yuki can drive the Red Bull car.
That's fair.
But
yeah.
If Red Bull's program, if the best that can come out of Red Bull's program at this point is Lindblad, I don't know that their program is where they want to find a driver.
You want to add insult to injury on that? Fornaroli is not part of anybody's program. He just signed for McLaren today.
Of course.
He could have signed for Red Bull, and Red Bull could have brought him into the Racing Bulls. The back-to-back. So the last 2, like, there's been a few in the last couple of years, but it's Piastri, Bortoleto, and now Fornaroli.
Yeah.
And he's not going to get a seat, but Arvid Lindblad is.
Yeah.
That's how much of an effect I think the media has on this sport, is that they made such a positive light of him and pushed his name into situations that I think it just seemed inevitable when there's no business for it to.
Yeah. I don't know that it's the media in that case. I think it's partially Red Bull.
Oh, yeah.
Red Bull saying, this is the best guy on the grid. We've picked him, therefore he's the best, so go out and do your thing. But I just want to throw this out there as well. Who else does Red Bull have who's been present at the last few races for Racing Bulls?
I don't know.
Iyuma Iwasa.
Oh.
He is technically a Toyota-backed driver, but he did F2 last year. I don't think he's in F2 this year.
Might be.
He didn't do particularly well in F2, but he was primary competition for Lawson in Super Formula. So they know each other. They've raced against each other. They were title contenders against each other in Super Formula. So if that's all it took for Lawson to get a seat, why are you skipping Iwasa?
I think we know why. I just don't think they want another Yuki. Whereas
Who says he's another Yuki?
Well,
you're saying he's another Yuki because he's Japanese?
That's maybe what the thought process is. I'm just saying, like, I think it is that simple in decision. Like, whereas Lindblad just seems like this cool new thing, and he's British.
I mean, Lindblad's British?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Helmut Marko is a raging racist, so that wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, but it doesn't make any sense.
I think also Iwasa's now part of Haas, right? I think that could be another reason.
No,
No, then
he is a Racing Bulls reserve driver.
Oh, who's the one that went to Haas then? I just pulled a racism.
Hirakawa.
Miata. Oh, wow. I just keep striking out. Okay, moving on.
I mean, Miata may have, but I don't know that he did. I know Hirakawa is there.
Just before we move on to science, rest in peace, Isaac Hadjar's career? Question mark.
Ugh. Possibly.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
He does seem like he's actually achieved some things going into this. Like I think Gasly didn't get the win at AlphaTauri before he went to Red Bull, right? Like he was just jumped into Red Bull after not doing much at Toro Rosso, Toro Rosso, and then he came back.
Sorry. Hold on. Let's step back for a second. I fucked this up. Ritomo Miata is the one that's currently in F2.
So we just did a whole giant racism based off of a missed name. Sorry, everybody.
But Iwasa is still part of the Racing Bulls lineup, and he has been at the track. He's just not. Iwasa was racing F2 previously. So I was still correct, but Miata is the Toyota driver that is in F2. Iwasa was a Red Bull driver in F2.
Just didn't do particularly well. So, having him instead of Lindblad when they both did bad is, I don't know, it's a push.
Yeah.
Isaac Hadjar at Red Bull. Do you think there's any hope there? He has achieved things this season. There seems like there could be some hope there.
Could be. I think there's potentially a little bit of hope for Hadjar in the sense that it's a new regulation set. You need a solid team of developers. And what we saw this year with Hadjar was that he has it.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to get out there and he knows how to put in the work and provide the feedback to bring a car up. Now, where are they in the standings? They're in sixth, which is largely down to him.
Yeah. And a bit of a Lawson revival, a tiny Lawson revival.
Yeah, when he slumped, Lawson picked up the slack, but Lawson's got 10 points, 8 points.
Lawson's got 38. 38. I'm looking at
total.
Yeah.
But most of his points are lower numbers. Whereas Hadjar has a podium.
Mm-hmm.
And then, actually, okay. 8-6, 8-6.
A lot of top sixes.
2. Yeah.
And would have had another one this weekend. A little bit of unluckiness. He's also had engine issues, the lion's share of the engine issues at that team this year. We saw losing 4/10 any given race on weekends when he was going to score high points, and he would get really mad on the radio because of that. So I think he's navigated that pretty well. Like he got points, I think, in Azerbaijan with an engine issue. That's
at 1 point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Now, I'll go back to this because I railed on Alonso for it, but I would say that engine reliability is partly a driver's responsibility also. So if he's had more unreliability, it's potentially because of the way that he drives versus Lawson. Now, I don't see that as a negative because perhaps Lawson could do better if he pushed harder.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll just put that out there just because I've shit on Alonso for it. So we have to be fair.
No, we don't.
You don't. I like to.
So yeah, there's hope for Isaac Hadjar.
I think so. As long as the team realizes that they need 2 drivers to get the constructors back.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. This has been a wild ride. They might just do this. They just might run this tape back and find what's best for Max and damn the rest.
I mean, in that case, I hope somebody else from another team is watching Isaac Hadjar.
Yes. Carlos Sainz. What are your thoughts? And then that'll end the episode. Yep.
Keep it up. Let's do it. I'm all for it. He's going to run Williams next year.
Yeah, I think Albon took this season for granted. I think he's been dealing with this car for 4 years and just never did the pop, right? Never had this moment, but Carlos built into it.
Yeah.
Albon hasn't scored points in 7 races. That's
is that
why.
True.
He scored points in 1 sprint, I think, at the USA sprint, where Carlos got 3rd. So Carlos has 3 podiums in that time. 3 podiums in that time.
Yeah. No.
Well, 2.5. 1 sprint podium,
No.
2 podiums.
He got a sprint podium in the US.
Yeah.
And then he got a podium in Qatar.
1 more podium.
He got 10 points in Las Vegas.
Look under Azerbaijan.
That's before the US.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but so in a Grand Prix, Albon hasn't scored points in a Grand Prix in 7 races.
More than that.
Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, yeah. Sorry, it is 7. Yep. No, you're right.
Gap is only 11 points. I think it was like 71 to 16 at one point. Now it's 73.
It was a stupid gap.
Yeah.
Yep. 73 to 64.
Yeah. 9 points. Insane.
Yep. No, and I was thinking about this while I watched the race, seeing Albon go nowhere. I think based on what we've seen in the last couple seasons, this is a matter of a driver who doesn't have the endurance for the season that we have.
That's a very good point.
Because he starts well, and then it falls off.
Every season.
Yeah.
That's
Whereas Sainz comes in, puts in the work. Yeah, the car is not what he had at Ferrari, but he's put in the work and he's shown that he will be there. And he's gotten 2 podiums with a car that people thought Albon would be the one getting podiums.
Yep.
So I firmly believe that if the team lets him, next season will be really good for him. And then it wouldn't surprise me if next year we start hearing rumors of Albon's career ending.
I was just about to say that. I completely agree.
Which is unfortunate because I like the guy, but if he's not performing, it's time to make way.
He's always just
Maybe for an Isaac Hadjar.
Yeah, well, very good point. Well, that's assuming Isaac fucks up at Red Bull, but
We'll see.
Alex has just never been exceptional. We talked about it earlier in the season. Would you rather have the consistency with the 5th to 7th, or would you rather have the pops with Sainz? Albon just never popped.
Yeah,
he just never had that moment. Yeah. All right, I think we got to wrap it up. Hold on, one more question. What do you got for Abu Dhabi? Just give our listeners a thought. What do you think is going to happen in Abu Dhabi?
The easy thing to say is Lando does what he has to do, which I think is a P3 or better.
Yeah.
That's the easy thing to say. But given what we saw in Qatar, which, I mean, Stevie Wonder could have called that strategy. Who knows? I mean, there is a chance that Max takes it. There's an off chance that Piastri takes it.
Either way, I hope Max or Oscar wins the race. That's all I want to see. I want to see one of those 2 drivers win the race and have Lando not have the most wins of the season. Because it's been all talk. I just needed the car. You had it. And your teammate beat you, and a guy with a team that was self-destructing found a way to beat you, almost. So
exactly.
My favorite scenario actually would be, which is highly unlikely, would be Oscar wins, Max 2nd, Lando like 7th. I would love to see that. because then Piastri wins.
Sorry, say that again.
My favorite scenario would be Oscar wins, Max second, and then Norris like seventh, and then Oscar wins the title by like 1 point.
Sure. I would love to see P1 through 3 on the grid, Max, Oscar, and Lando. I don't care which combination. And see a repeat of Singapore in 2018, 2017 maybe, where Vettel, Raikkonen, and Max came together before the corner. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, that massive collision.
Right. I want to see that. Take all 3 of them out. DNF, 0 points. Yes, it means Lando wins, but I want to see a shit show in Abu Dhabi. Because what a way to end the year.
That would be like a Prost Senna type of thing where you knew you kind of thought it was coming in 1990, and then it happens first lap, and then that's it. That's the championship, and then just watch the race for fun, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, what is it? It's 4 points between Piastri and Verstappen.
Yeah.
So what is 4 points position-wise?
8th.
8th. Okay. So let's say I want to see Oscar and Max battling for 8th.
Lando goes
and I want
out.
to see Lando DNF.
I was going to say, I would love to see Oscar take out Lando if he can't win. Wouldn't that just be fun for everybody?
Do Prost and Senna in Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then Max wins because of it.
Sure.
Anyways, I do think Lando finishes third, but I don't think he wins the race. So that's my prediction. I think he does just enough to win, unfortunately. No matter what, though, he, to me, is one of the worst champions ever, if not the worst.
No, come on. With Jensen Button out there, how much do you hate Button?
I hate Button a lot, and I just think, but Button, at least with the best car, dominated. Because his tale is, I had the best car, and then I fell off the second everybody caught up. Lando
He had the best car, but he also had Ross Brawn.
Yeah, he's
Who
probably
was intelligent.
Yeah, he's probably the worst champion. When you put it that way, he is the worst champion. But at least he dominated with the best car. Lando never dominated at any point this season. 2 races, maybe.
No.
2 races, maybe, Brazil and Mexico. But even still, I think Red Bull fucked up Brazil. So it's
The
just...
fact that Red Bull was allowed to come back is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. We're also forgetting Nico Rosberg, by the way. That's one of the worst champions ever. But
I wouldn't say that.
he beat Hamilton.
He legitimately fought with Hamilton. I think he knew that he wasn't going to go anywhere, and that's why he retired, but that's a different story.
That, to me, though, that's horrible champion behavior. So if we're getting down to the definition of the word champion, he's a horrible champion.
Sure.
Anyways, let's also kudos to Damon Hill for winning the title and being fired because your team principal knew the rookie in that season was better than you and got proven right. Honorable mention to Damon Hill. All right. Have a good night, Sean. We'll talk after Abu Dhabi. We'll go through all our predictions, see how we did. Enjoy, everybody. This Sunday's going to be wild. I'm off. I get to enjoy the race and not have to worry about going to work. I'm excited.
There you go. I'll have to find some more time to watch it because it's a busy weekend for me. But it'll be an exciting one. And it's finally the end. It's a long fucking season.
It's way too long. We said this last year, too. 24 races is ridiculous.
I stand by my 52 race weekend.
Thanks, Sean.
Or 52 race calendar. That's what I'm trying to say.
Let's never take a break.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Never.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.